Today we have to listen realities of Nama Rupa, realities of psychophysical phenomena. Yogis are practicing Vipassana meditation. Vipassana meditation means observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. At the moment of seeing, eye sensitivity, visible object, and seeing consciousness clearly exist. At the moment of hearing, eardrums, sound wave, and hearing consciousness clearly exist. Other also the same. So among these three, eye sensitivity and visible objects are rupa, physical phenomena. Rupa, physical phenomena, cannot know anything by themselves. So they are called anaramana in Abhidhamma. Anaramana Dhamma that cannot know the object. And when we see something, seeing consciousness clearly exists. Seeing consciousness is mental phenomena, it is nama, that is able to know the objects. In Abhidhamma, it is called saramana. So what really exists are eye sensitivity, visible objects, called rupa, seeing consciousness called nama. They are really exist. They really exist at the moment of seeing. So if we do not practice meditation, there will be wrong view. Wrong view that these namarupa that clearly exist are self, I, living entity, or being, etc. It is called Sakaya Deity. To understand these namarupa correctly, yogi have to practice meditation. Yogi need to try to note each and every phenomena diligently. When you practice diligently, yogi's concentration becomes strong, and right thoughts, right thinking to direct your mind so that you correctly know the object on which mind is concentrated. Following that, directing the factors of right view knows the object directly. So how does you know? At the beginning of the stage, where concentration becomes strong enough for the mental hindrances to disappear, when purity of mind begins to arise, you begin to know, you begin to see distantly the matter that is noted and the mind that notes. Kaya Nupassana, you contemplate the body, for example, rising and falling of the abdomen, You note rising. You know clearly that what rises is one thing and what notes is another. When you note falling, you know that what falls is one thing and that notes is another. So not only one, you see two. In the same way, when noting, when practicing walking, you note lifting, stepping, putting down. You know clearly that what is noted is one thing, and what notes is another. In the same way, you distinctly know the matter which is known and the mind which notes. And that knowing is not by imagining, but it is distinct and clear understanding through just observing without imagining. It is only just to note very precisely and deeply. So how you become to see mind and matter clearly? When you practice meditation, you make notes of the objects, or you try to be mindful of the objects. The purpose is to understand these objects completely, and it is for the complete understanding of the objects. Kaya very clear, rising and falling. When you make notes of rising or falling, it is to understand the rising movement and the falling movement completely. And when you note pain again, while you note the pain, it is not to get rid of pain that you make notes, but to understand that pain fully. So for the full understanding of the objects, you try to be mindful of these objects, or you make notes of these objects. And full understanding means understanding what they are, understanding that they are impermanent, they are suffering, and they are not so. And also the full understanding includes removing wrong view or abandoning wrong notions regarding that object. That is what we call full understanding. When you first practice meditation, you try to be mindful of the objects at the present moment. But in the beginning, your mind may not be on the meditation object only. Your mind may wander here and there quite often. That is because your concentration is weak. Your concentration is not strong yet. So you cannot keep your mind where you want it to be, but it goes here and there. But long retreat, you need real perseverance and patience. With perseverance and with patience, you go on, and a time will come when your mind is on the meditation object only. You train very well. Or even if there is wandering, you can catch it right away. You will not be carried away by the wandering for maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds, etc. Previous time, you are carried away by these thoughts. Now, you will be able to catch it right away. Even you may be able to stop it before it goes out. That is possible with your diligent practice. When your mind can be on the meditation object, most of the time, your mind is said to have gained concentration. Every object is presented to you through the six sense doors, and you are able to make notes, or you are able to be mindful of each and every object. Although there may be different objects at different moments, there is always the mindfulness of concentration on the side, as it were. So now rising, coming. There is the object of rising and mindfulness of the rising from the beginning to the end. And there's falling and mindfulness of the falling of the abdomen from the beginning to the end. And there's hearing and mindfulness of hearing. And then there is touching and mindfulness of the touching. So there is always mindfulness in the mind, although the objects may vary at different moments. That means there is always the mindfulness and concentration at every moment. When your mind can be on the main objects only, then you are said to gain what is called Khanika Samadhi, momentary concentration. And when you gain the momentary concentration, you are said to gain what is called purity of mind. Purity of mind can be understood in two ways. Your mind is pure at that time because it is not contaminated by mental hindrances. And also your mind is said to be pure because there is always mindfulness and concentration. It is not mixed with distraction. So pure can mean without impurities, and pure can mean unmixed. Your flow of mind is unmixed with distraction, and so you are always on the object. When your mind can be on the meditation only, and your mind does not wander, then your mind becomes settled down, your mind becomes quiet. That is the time when you begin to see the objects vividly and clearly. Before that time, although you may think that you see the objects clearly, it is not really clear that you see. But when your mind becomes settled, when mind becomes concentrated, then these objects manifest themselves to you vividly and clearly. Now right thought come. Right thought is one mental state. It is the one that takes your mind onto the object, that puts your mind on to the object. That is called right thought. Right thought does not mean thinking actually. It is called right thought, but it is the mental state that takes your mind and that takes your consciousness onto the objects or puts the mind onto the object. It is essential that there should be this mental state so that it can take your mind to the object. Once your mind is on the main meditation object, right view, another mental state comes. Right view, understand the objects clearly and correctly. So these two mental states are important for the correct understanding of objects or seeing objects as they are without any distraction. So right thought takes your mind on to the objects, and then right view understand the objects, see the objects as it is. That comes only when your mindfulness and concentration become strong. When concentration becomes strong, your mind is free from mental hindrances and also distraction, so that it resembles a glass of water of which the particles of dirt has settled down. When the particles settle down, water becomes clear and also it is still. When it is still, it is without particles of dirt. You can see through water clearly. In the same way, when there are what are called mental hindrances in our minds, like desire, anger, delusion, and so on, our minds are said to be contaminated and our minds are dirty. So we cannot see objects clearly, we cannot see Namarupa. Now, with practice, with patience, they settle down as your minds become clear. And also you keep your mind on the objects. That means your mind becomes steady. When your mind becomes steady and it is without mental hindrances, then it is like a clear glass of water. So you begin to see things clearly. When yogi has reached that stage, then he is said to have achieved the second stage of purity, which is purity of mind, Citta Visuddhi. So when purity of mind begins to arise, you come to know or you come to see distinctly Rupa, Metta that is noted, and Nama, the mind that notes. You see two things. Now there are no distraction, and your mind is always on the object. So you begin to see the objects clearly, and you begin to see that your mind makes notes of the object. For example, rising and falling, etc. So your mind is making notes, rising, falling, rising, falling. formally, although you may be noting rising, falling, you think the noting and the rising and falling are mixed up, all mixed. But now you see these two things clearly and distinctly. The one that makes note and the other that is noted. So it is important that you see these two things separately and clearly. You know distinctly the matter that is noted and the mind that notes. Just we are noting rising and falling, there is a name. Actually, rising and falling of the abdomen is rupa. It is made up of material properties, movement, stiffness, tension, etc. So it is matter. And the things that knows that matter is nama, mind. So you see that nama and rupa, mind and matter, arising and also disappearing simultaneously. There is rising, there is the awareness of rising, and then rising stops, and then falling begins. So need to watch very closely. When it is falling, then there is another mind that is aware of the falling. At the moment of rising and falling, there is noting as rising and falling, rising and falling. So you see these two things going on at the moment. At the moment of rising, there is rising, which is matter, that is just movement, stiffness, and there is the awareness or noting, that is mind. So mind and matter, nama and rupa going on in pairs. At the next moment, there is falling, and then there is noting of falling. Again, there is rising, and then noting the rising, and then falling, the noting of falling, and so on. So at every moment, what you see is just two things. Because of your concentration, you see two things, mind and matter, or the subject and the objects, that which notes and that which is noted. So you see these two things actually, you don't see a person, you don't see a being, you don't see a man or woman in these two things. So we are used to think in terms of beings and person. That is very difficult to get rid of this view. But when you see for yourself through practice that there are only these two things at this moment and no other things, you come to realize that what we call a being or a person is just the combinations of these two things, mind and matter, nama and rupa. Apart from mind and matter, there is nothing we can call a person or a being. It is like a car. You always drive a car, but in reality, a car does not exist. Only the parts exist. in your car seats, exhaust pipe, lights, bumper, tire, wheel, engine, roof, many parts. If you take the parts one by one, you lose the car. Although there are still parts. But you put the parts in their respective places again, then you get a car. Actually, what we call a car is non-existence. What is really existent in this simile is the parts. In the same way we call ourselves a being, we call ourselves as a person, man or woman, but actually in the ultimate analysis, there is no person, no being, no man, no woman, just mind and matter. So you see this through your own experience, not because we have read Abhidhamma or we attended the lecture, or not because we just sit down and speculate. We see for ourselves through practice of Vipassana meditation that every moment there are only these two things going on, mind and matter, the flow of mind and matter, streams of Nama-rupa consciousness. Sometimes the one that is noted is also mind. So sometimes mind is noting the other mind. Sometimes mind is noting matter. So what is noted may be different at different moments. For example, you are making notes of rising and falling. When you are making notes of rising and falling, you are noting the rupa, matter. Then your mind goes out, then you note going out, or wandering. Now you are noting the nama, mind. So the things that is noted can be either matter or mind. But the things that knows is always mind. Even though your one mind is making notes of another mind, there is always the physical base which is dependent upon by the mind. So mind can arise only depending upon our body. For example, seeing mind, seeing consciousness. There can be seeing mind, seeing consciousness only when you have the eye sensitivity. If we are blind, we do not have eyes at all, there will be no seeing mind, no seeing consciousness. So mind in human beings, minds in animals, in some form of celestial beings is always dependent upon a physical base. If there is no physical base, mind cannot exist by itself. When your mind is noting another mind, that means they are dependent upon physical base, which is matter. In this case also mind and matter going on and on and on. In the same way, when you walk, you make notes of lifting, moving, putting down. In that case, also lifting the movements of the foot is metta and noting is mind. Again, pushing forward is metta and noting is mind. And putting down is metta and noting is mind. So you see clearly that at the moment of lifting the foot and so on, there are these two things going on, mind and metta, nama and rupa. When you see mind and metta in this way, you don't see anything over and above mind and metta. Now you have right views. You are set to gain a right view, and you are set to gain an understanding the objects as they really are. That is the right view, that is the right understanding you gain through your practice. This type of understanding cannot be gained through just reading or listening to the talk or just speculating, just understanding Abhidhamma. We have to practice. And it is our own experience, our own understanding. So when we see that there are mind and metta at moments, we are able to remove the wrong view, we are able to abandon the wrong notion that we are a person or we are a being or we are an individual. But when we talk, we cannot avoid using the terms I, you, or person, or being, because we live in the conventional world. So we have to use conventional terms for the ease of our communication, for the ease of our usage. But in the ultimate sense, there is no man, there's no woman, there's no being, there's no person, but just mind and metta, nama and rupa. Or if we expand it a little, just 5 aggregates. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. Rupa, this body. Vedana, just a feeling. Sanya, perception. Sankhara, volitional formation. And Vijnana, consciousness. Rupa is just Rupa and other 5 are Nama. So just Nama Rupa. So this you come to realize through the practice of meditation, through constant observation of objects that are presented to you through your 6 senses. So when you reach this stage, just seeing mind and metta clearly and seeing that there are only mind and metta and no one else, then you have entered into the realms of vipassana. You have passed through the threshold of vipassana. The practice of satipatthana meditation is very rewarding, very beneficial. Just after some time, you come to the realization that they are only mind and metta. That means you discover something about these objects. Formerly, you do not know about these objects. Now you pay close attention to these objects by constant observation, by your concentration. You make the discovery that what you thought to be a compact being, a compact individual, is actually just the combinations of nama and rupa, mind and matter. If mind is taken away from matter, matter taken away from mind, it cannot function as a being. So mind and matter are compared to two persons, a cripple and a blind man. Blind man cannot go to his destination simply because he is blind. A crippled man cannot go because he cannot go. But a crippled man gets on the back of a blind man, and then he gives direction. Turn right, turn left, go straight. So he gives direction. Then they both reach their destination. In the same way, mind and matter by themselves are without any action. Mind cannot go, mind cannot lift food, mind cannot speak, because it has no body. So now why I'm speaking, why I'm talking? Because Volution Sankhara Nama is asking, talk, so I have to talk. So you listen to the talk, listen. Who is listening? Mind. Nama is listening. Mind is asking the Rupa. Listen, so body have to be obey. Mind is asking, give direction. During the practice of meditation, you see Nama Rupa, especially evolutionary formation. You see every action you can discover. Sitting, walking, standing, lying down, speaking, seeing, all are directed by Sankhara, volitional formation. That is Nama. Volitional formation is Nama. So mind and matter by themselves are without any action. Mind cannot go, mind cannot lift, mind cannot speak, mind cannot listen, because mind has no body. And the body by itself without mind cannot do anything. It is like log wood. But when mind and matter comes together, mind and body come together, now they are called a person, and they can function. So this you come to understand, you come to realize through your own experience, not from another person, not because your teacher taught you this process. Vipassana knowledge is the real knowledge that comes from within, and only Vipassana knowledge that comes from within is called a real understanding or real wisdom. This real wisdom you can attain through the practice of vipassana meditation or through the practice of observation of the objects as they are presented to you. So the whole retreat, the whole practice, you are very busy. Whatever coming to you, you take note of it. Always busy. So it is important that you pay attention to these objects at the present moment so that you see the objects clearly. When you see the objects clearly, you know what it is. You have to know clearly what is seeing, what is hearing, what is rising, what is falling, what is walking. You need to know clearly. Now you make notes of the rising, falling. And along with rising and falling, there's noting. There's noting, and you may know the noting also. Your noting mind knows the objects. Noting the objects means your mind as well goes to the object, or your mind inclines towards the objects. That is why it is called mind. Mind or nama means something that bends, something that inclines towards another things. When you take an object in your mind as well goes to the objects, or your mind as well bends to the objects. That is why it is called mind. When you watch rising and falling has no cognitive power. It does not know anything. They are just matter. And this also you come to see through your observation. That is, you see what they are. After seeing what they are, you will also see that they come and go. They do not last. Through this practice, you can discover many things about yourself and many things about mind and matter, many things about the objects that are presented to you. And this discovery is important because without the discovery of what mind and matter is and how they are related and so on, we cannot reach our destination, we cannot get enlightenment, we cannot attain nirvana. That is why we have to practice vipassana meditation. We have to go through the stages of vipassana one by one. There's no skipping of those stages or those. Some people, some yogi may be able to go through these stages very fast due to their paramis, due to their perfection. But however fast they go through, they have to go through all these stages. So that is what we call knowing the knower and the known. When you know the knower and the known, how many things are there? There are three things. The known, the knower, and the knower of the knower. You know that there is material objects, that is the known, and then the awareness of material objects, the knower, And then you know the knower that there is knower of the awareness of the material objects, the knower of the knower. So yogi see three things at the moment. What is know? What knows? And then the knower of what knows. So all the discovery you make through your practice of vipassana meditation. Without vipassana meditation, we cannot hope to see these realities of nama and rupa. If we do not see the realities of nama and rupa, mind and matter, we cannot hope to progress along this path. And if we cannot make progress, we cannot get the true understanding of the Four Noble Truths. In other words, we cannot get enlightenment. So the purpose of vipassana, or the ultimate aim of vipassana, is to get enlightenment or to achieve total purification of mind. But the functions of vipassana is to see the true nature of things, to understand true nature of Namarupa fully. To understand them fully means to know what they are, to know these Namarupa are impermanence, suffering and non-self, and to be able to abandon any wrong views regarding these Nama and Rupa. So once you understand fully these things, then the practice will carry itself towards reaching your goal. So this seeing Nama and Rupa is just the beginning of our vipassana. So we see mind and matter clearly, we are said to possess, or we are said to attain the purity of views, or we are said to possess a clear understanding of the realities of Nama and Rupa. So realities of Nama Rupa, we need to see clearly, and we need to remove the Sakaya deity, to abandon any wrong views regarding the Nama Rupas. So today we have to stop our discourse for today. We continue Abhidhamma tomorrow. By practicing vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, by noting rising, falling, sitting, touching, seeing, hearing, continuously and meticulously, may all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future. So,